What up, tube? Yeah, this is looking a little weird because we have a flippy flip today. I did something special. I put a piece of tape down here on the bottom of this just to hold it long enough to do the spin. And then I put one piece of tape underneath right now to do the spin. That way I can pick up the record and take it off or whatever. But yeah, this is a flippy flip. Like I said, one piece of tape here that I can easily remove. I'll use that as a center at some point. Today's Flip Cup is not sponsored by Elios Coffee. Elios Coffee, who uses plastic cups. I found that on the side of the road. And I can say this because I don't really drink coffee. Coffee has three effects to me. A, I drink coffee. I go to sleep. B, I drink coffee. I use the bathroom. And then I go to sleep. This is probably going to be a little bit bigger of a flip cup than I would want, but whatever. C, I drink coffee. I feel like I've ingested the entire country of Colombia for a good 30 minutes. So, if you're keeping track, that's all the coffee, all the caffeine, all the cocaine, everything in Colombia. All the whatever's in Colombia. And as I said, you got about a 20-minute window before my body says, nope, sorry, buddy. We ain't doing that anymore. And it just crashes out on you. Okay, so that first layer was a layer of white, of course, for my flippy flip. Because I didn't mix, specialized paints for this, I'm just kind of throwing things in together to see what happens more. So, yeah, it's like, all right, well, what color do I want to put next to this one? We're going to put a layer of you in here on this side. I don't think I've done a side by side with any of these. And if you're not in the mood to watch somebody layer colors, you know what to do. You know what to do. You don't want to watch me layer colors? Huh? You may do something else. Layering your colors for a flip cup is what takes the longest. Because, you're trying to get all these little specialty layers in, especially, if you're me. So there's not like much care on, how the paints might come across. It's more of, oh yeah, let's do a specialty layer here. Let's do a layer of this, a layer of that, These are normally, of course, done with, if you're doing a flip cup, normally you'll have paints just kind of set aside already mixed for your flipper. And I think the flip cups are mixed a little bit thicker than what I normally do. It depends, honestly. It's why I never really try to give out this is my pouring medium recipe for any of the pours. I'm not like, yeah, you must use, 2 parts paint with 1 part water, with 1 part Floetrol, with 1 part, GAC 800, with 1 part shoebox greeting from Hallmark. No, I'm just like, yo, mix your paints up. Because all of your paints, you have different levels of pigment involved in these things. You have, just different amounts of liquid. The paints are going to weigh different. Is it a transparent, semi-transparent, opaque type of color? soft body, hard body. I mean, even with your craft paints, there are different consistencies, there are different weights. So don't just be like, oh yeah, I went and got Craft Smart, so I can, mix them all, 1 to 1. No. Or, oh, I went and got Golden, so it has to be 2 to 1. No. Not all Golden paints are the same. So, yeah, that's my rant for the day, I guess. That's my rant for the day. That's my rant for the day. And come back next time where I'll be discussing why all of your paints look like this. But the basic thing is your consistency, like I'm saying. Um, Ideally, with these sorts of what was I going to put on that layer? I think I was going to do blue actually. Ideally, with these is that you should be able to, put one color on top of the other, not necessarily have it bleeding through. Which is actually why I kind of like using the squirt bottles versus, a cup. A lot of times when I'm doing it with a cup, it just kind of, we may have a cloggy. If you have a cloggy, you can just open her up. And see, like, okay, prime example. Because I mixed, excess paints that I put back into bottles or whatever. This is a golden, because I marked it as golden open. This is folk art, different consistencies for your paints. So they're going to weigh different. So treat them differently. Do not treat your paints the same. Don't think that every paint's going to need the same amount of material. It's not. Going to need the same amount of pouring medium. It's not. Give them a little bit of consistency, but a little bit of
difference
in them also, I think I had some. I've had the theme song for the wrestler Mystico stuck in my head. And okay, so let me back up here. Mystico is a wrestler. Um, he did the guy behind the mask, I should say, did a stint with the World Wrestling Federation about a decade ago. It's Sin Cara, a little over a decade, and that didn't go the best. So he returned to Mexico. But in Mexico, this guy's like, he's like the second coming, or he's the man in Mexico. He was always the man, and he left and he came back, and now he's like the Superman. And the dude has like this theme song. It's actually like, and I can say this for someone who does not understand like a lick of Spanish. You read over, what the song's about and the lyrics, and everything. It's really good. The premise of the music video and everything. It's like the singer is in love with the wrestler, and she doesn't know how to tell him that she's the number one fan. And somehow she ends up, you know, where the wrestler does fall in love with her, and it's just like, so beautiful. Like one of those songs that, you know, even though it is quite happy, you can cry listening to it. I mean, it's just so beautiful, so beautiful. Mystical. Da, 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 da. Ba, da, 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 da. Ba, da, 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 da. I have some of that already in there. Oh, I need to top it. We gotta put our topper on. And I think that's going to be the end of my flip here because, you know, I've added more than enough paint to my cup. Again, this flip cup is, wait, let me make sure you can see this. This flip cup is brought to you by Elios Coffee. Elios Coffee. We make cups. All right, so let's see here. Like I said, one piece of tape right here so I can hold it onto the surface. If I am going to put more tape, now's the time because I do have it kind of flipped up. All right, I have one piece there. I always like to know what the record is, you know, so I don't really want to put it on the inside. And I like having extra tape on these. I have enough little tape that's already ripped. But I like having tape on these just because I don't want it to, you know, go anywhere on the platter when I'm spinning. Even though it's not really a big spin here. We're deciding to do a flip cup today. Like I'm watching a few things. There was one actually this guy did. He does a lot of experimental pours anyway. I'm going to say guy because I never really hear a voice in the videos. It's just, you know, music and hands. So maybe it's a guy. But the person, I'll say that. Yeah. What the person did was they just kind of flipped it. They had foil in there and they cut a bunch of other stuff. And it was weird. And then another lady, you know, did hers like the standard pours. I like standard pours. I'm kind of tapping up here just to loose the goose. Oh, did I put some orange? I think I did. I was like, did I put some more orange in there? The whole point was that I wanted to get rid of some of this orange that I have. I haven't done a flip cup in a while. It's kind of weird for me to say, but maybe that's a part of the depression is that you just don't feel like doing the things that you want to do. Are we calling it depression or are we calling it burnout? Either way, it's back. It's back. It's back in the saddle again. It's back. Yeah, just to get a little bit of that open. Just to open it up a little easier. Opens it up a little easier. Yep. And then I wonder if I have any little cutouts I can work on with the rest of this paint. Because I do have a little bit of paint left in the cup here. My other options would be to try to maybe do some jewelry pieces. And I could actually stick the glass into the paint. I never really think about doing that. That might be what happens today. Some paint. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens after I, shut off the lights and take my photos and then shut back on the lights and all that sort of fun stuff there. Oh, I want to clean the edges of this. I mean, I know it's still on the platter and settling, but I do want to wipe those edges. I think that's an important thing to do, especially with flips, because it kind of stops the paint, gives you a definite line. Hey, listen, paint, I know that you're still settling and all, but would you mind not dropping down there, Make your hotness look kind of hot instead of super hot. I don't know. Drop it like it's hot. P-O-G, baby, drop it like it's hot. There we go. I always forget when I turn on like the big light over here that it's already on. So then I'll click over, 3 times because that's what I have to do to turn it on. And it's like, oh, you don't need to do that. It's already on. All right. Yeah, let's get to the part that you all are waiting to see. Does this glow? 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 Does this? Oh, it's gonna glow. Whoa, it's gonna glow. Look at it glow. It's records painted. I don't know. That's actually the old Orange Cassidy theme, Freshly Squeezed. Can you tell I'm a bit of a wrestling fan? Sadly, I had to miss the last wrestling pay-per-view. I don't really watch WWE anymore. Well, I did watch their Saturday Night's Main Event because it was on for free. I'm more of an AEW person, All Elite Wrestling. Shout out to Jacksonville promotion. I think for me, it's a case of, don't get me wrong, I grew up on professional wrestling. I grew up actually on Southern professional wrestling. So the NWA, WCW, 605 Saturday nights, TBS, baby. But with that also being said, I had, WWF, now WWE, Federation of Entertainment. So yeah, I grew up with Hulk Hogan, but also with Ric Flair, but also with Dusty Rhodes, but also with Ron Simmons. I remember being at home watching Ron Simmons win the title, type of thing. Yeah. So yeah, we grew up on those sorts of things. And in my adult life, I've followed wrestling. And I think for myself, like a lot of people, we forgave WWE in the past. We forgave a lot of the storylines and we forgave, just the gunk that we heard from behind the scenes, allegations and stuff before it was really bad. Um, we initially forgave the Saudi deal or whatever. But now, we've had the merger, the TKO, and everything is really corporatized. And, as a wrestling fan, I want to watch people wrestle. I want to hear a commentator talk about people wrestle. I don't want to have it be a continuous ad. And, take a look at this past WrestleMania. It was like all ads, or at least, half of it was ads. So it's like, why would you want to pay for that? Yeah, it's just good to have alternatives. It's good to have, something different. So for me, All Elite Wrestling is something different. I hope it sticks around. If not, then I'll go back to New Japan and CMLL and, little independents here and there, Rev Pro and Dragon Gate and whatever the other little independents are. Is PWG still a thing? Ring of Honor is actually owned by All Elite Wrestling now, still independent. So yeah, I'll go back to watching all that stuff, and still dip my toes in, but it's just not really my jam anymore. I would rather watch real wrestling, not real, and for me, professional wrestling is a form of light. I know some people are going to say, "Oh, well, it's fake, whatever." No. Oh, well, it's so violent. No, it's a form of, it's a form of entertainment. It's a reality play, a morality play, I should say. Um, it's something watchable, and like I said, it's a form of light. And these days, light's what we need. We need to have our comfort shows, our comfort foods, our comfort practices, whatever. Um, Today's Memorial Day, so we need to remember, those who came before us, who made the ultimate sacrifice so we can do these things. And, also in that, take comfort in who we are as people and what we have, and what we can do. And this is a comfort for me, making these paintings, making these videos. Um, it is a comfortable thing. Yes, do I want to experiment with more techniques, more options, more colors, and everything? Yes. Um, so it's good to do that, but it's also good to have time where you're just doing something familiar. And for many of us in the fluid art world, the flip cup is familiar. It is the first or one of the first things that you start off with when you decide you're going to do a fluid art journey. Oh, I'm going to learn how to do a flip cup. Um, some of my best paintings were flip cups. You know, some of the pieces that have sold the best. The times where I've really enjoyed making art or whatever, flip cup. So it's good. Maybe I should do more of these because flip cups are easy and fun, and they allow for me to share light. In the end, that's what matters, is sharing our light. Yeah. So be it professional wrestling or be it a flip cup or whatever it is, share your light. Um, and remember that your light's what's going to break through the darkness. I mean, yeah, if you're a wrestler down in Mexico, yeah, you gotta want to have a little light so that people will come and be your fan and follow you. And if you're a painter in Florida, you're gonna want to have a little light so that people will enjoy your artwork. So thank you all for enjoying my light. I'm gonna get out of here before the light starts creeping in, but y'all take care. Deuces. Remember that light's gonna break through the darkness, whatever it is. Deuces.